This is Viterbi Voices.
Coming to you from the University of Southern California, Viterbi School of Engineering.
We're here to give you the inside scoop on research, classes, student life, and so much more.
All of these shared by students, faculty, alumni, and other members of the USC community.
Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Viterbi Voices. As usual, I am one of your hosts. My name is Paul Ledesma, Executive Director of Undergraduate Admission here at the USC Viterbi School of Engineering.
And I'm your other co-host. I'm Cameron, a senior studying computer science and business administration from Chicago here at the Viterbi School of Engineering.
And right off the bat, similar to last week, going to have to apologize for audio quality. I am... Well, it's weird because I'm in my office, but I'm remote from where I usually from my usual recording microphone and studio. So quality is a little lame here, but whatever. Hopefully, it's still helpful. This is April continues. Admitted student events continue. We're busy. Cameron, I literally just saw you 15 minutes ago, and now we're recording virtually.
Yep, sounds about right.
Nonstop right now. High school juniors are visiting. We had a big group that we just talked to today. Tomorrow is a big admitted student events, man. It's just nonstop. And in the middle of all that, you're producing podcast episodes. And this one is a super special one for a lot of reasons. Tell everybody what we got going on today.
Yeah, so if you've read the title, this is Viterbi Abroad with Maya. So as you know, Maya's abroad this semester. She's a typical co-host of the podcast. And
Maya? Who's Maya? Wait, I'm sorry, who?
We addressed this in the episode too. We're like, introduce yourselves, because some folks may have, been like, oh, need a refresher. It's okay. I get it. We know her. She's our beloved friend and colleague, but you may not remember her. So we gave her a little bit of introduction. But yes, Maya is the host of the podcast. So I'm stepping in and filling for the duties as she's abroad, having fun, studying, doing the thing. And we just we had a conversation about what it was like learning about study abroad, applying, and her experience actually being, and she's studying at Queen's Mary College in London, what her experience has been like taking engineering and other classes in London, traveling around Europe, all the things that you want to know about studying abroad as an engineering student and just a student in college in general.
So cool. You know what's so funny? I haven't thought about this. I just literally this moment pieced it together. I'm going to be in London like 2 weeks. For our admitted student event. I should make sure and email Maya and see if she wants to stop by the event and meet the admitted students in London. So we get that coming up in a couple weeks.
You should. That'd be great. I tried to meet up with her when I was in Berlin for the Writing 340 program, which is in the episode. We talk about it, but she was in Turks and Caicos, which is I think one of the British territories. So we didn't quite meet it, but I did meet some other folks that I saw randomly who were in Europe who were also engineering students. I'm like, I know you. You're an engineer, so I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, they're like, what are you doing here? I thought you weren't here. I'm like, I studied abroad too, in a different way, but very cool. Folks are everywhere.
A lot of things to unpack there. One, it's like, oh yeah, I was in Europe and I ran into a bunch of people I knew from USC. That's a weird sentence. The second thing is like, oh, Maya wasn't there because she's in Turks and Caicos, because naturally that's where you go when you're in London. You go to Turks and Caicos. What is that about?
So I was there during spring break.
Was that her spring break too?
Yes, it was. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll talk to her while I was over there. People were like, she's in like Turks and Caicos. And I'm like, well, at first I was going to be like, why? And then I stopped myself from saying something stupid. And I was like, you know what? She's probably having fun on an island where I could have been, but I decided to go to the cold and learn about engineering. It was fun, but that's where she was.
Cool. Well, let's get out of the way and hand it right back over to you and bring back Maya, the not forgotten, just purely joking around. Maya, also our host, who's taking a little break while she's studying abroad, to talk about her experience in London, a little bit about your experience while you were gone over there in Germany, and about study abroad in general. And we'll see you all on the other side of this episode for a couple quick updates.
And welcome. So as we said in the intro, we have a very special guest here. We're making her return all the way from across the pond is Maya. Maya, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Hi, Cameron. It feels good to be back on the podcast. Yeah.
I know. I can imagine it's been a little bit. The true host is returning for today to kind of give us an update and everything. Well, first and foremost, how are you? How have you been? How have you been feeling over the past couple of months? Like being, a world traveler and outside the U.S.
I'm good. Honestly, I'll say it's different, yet it's not. Like you're still in school, still a student, but The opportunities have definitely been different. I'm doing well overall, though. I see the sun right now in London. That has been a very rare occurrence in the last couple of months. Has been missing LA, but it's really nice. We're moving into springtime. Everything's really exciting. I actually have my last week of class next week as well. And then it moves into kind of a final revision period. So I'm excited about that. Yeah, happy to be talking to you.
Of course, of course. So for context, like I know some people may have forgotten, just give a little bit of like background about like, who you are, but also like where you're studying abroad and like, what you're doing to kind of refresh people if they might have forgot.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Maya. I'm a current junior at USC studying industrial and systems engineering. And this semester, I am studying abroad at Queen Mary's University in London, England. So set that up a while ago. I've always planned on going abroad. With the pandemic, we kind of weren't sure if it would happen, but here I am. I am, I think, 2.5 months into my study abroad program. I'm taking 4 classes here. I'm sure Cameron and I will talk about the courses that I'm taking. But yeah, it's been a really awesome experience.
Awesome, for sure. So let's go ahead and hop in. Let's kind of, take a little roadmap. Let's do like a timeline. So when you first got into college, like, did you know studying abroad was something you wanted to do, or was it something you kind of figured out as you got in?
Yeah, absolutely. That was probably one of the top 3 things I knew I wanted to do at Viterbi. I was like, I want to be a Viterbi student ambassador. I want to study abroad, and I don't know, something else. Like I want to go surfing. So I
Good
can
big
now
three.
say that all 3 of those are checked off. But yeah, that was something I knew I always wanted to do, talking to other college students, even talking to my parents and people I knew that had studied abroad. I knew that was something that I wanted to do. So how I set that up is I just chatted with my advisor like as early as possible. So I think it was the first semester. I was like, hey, like this is something that I'd really like to do throughout my college. And that I think is a pretty common conversation with your first meeting with your advisor. They'll ask you if you want to study abroad or if you eventually want to do like a progressive degree program or something like that. And then they'll take that into account with your schedule. So fortunately, I came into USC with enough credit where I would have graduated a semester early had I not gone abroad. So it was really easy to fit into my schedule.
Awesome. That's really good to hear. And so you said like the process was pretty easy for as far as like actually going to study abroad. But talk about like some of the details. Like, did you have to apply? Like, was it just like easy, like you pick this university and go? Like, what were some of those logistical things?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you have it kind of put into your schedule, but that's before you apply and are accepted to the program. Viterbi is a little bit different. I guess it depends on how you're studying abroad. So you can go through Viterbi, or some people I know who are in computer science and business, like you, Cameron, they're going through Marshall, so the business school. So it just kind of depends, but there's a big USC Study Abroad website, and that's kind of where it all starts. So they have all the applications for the different programs and the different descriptions of what you can take. And this is also another thing that your advisor will help you through. So they'll let you know like what courses or what course equivalents you can take abroad, and that can give you different options, and you can understand like which school you might get more credit if you go to. But at the end of the day, it is your personal preference on what you decide to what school you decide to apply to. So I knew I wanted to be in Europe, particularly the UK, which I think is a really big travel hub. So then I chose to go to London instead of, let's say, the University of Edinburgh, which is also in the UK. So mix of personal preference and what classes you can get credit for.
No, for sure, for sure. And so when we pick out the classes, since you're industrial systems, did you feel like that was a major that like other schools like had? Like, did they? I'm assuming they had it there. Did they have the classes?
Mm-hmm.
Did they have things where you kind of really trying to finesse and figure out what class you could take?
Yeah, I think industrial and systems engineering here. I've had to explain what that major is many times, so they don't have an exact translation to that major here. I'm actually just in one course that gets me elective credit for information systems for industrial and systems engineering. So that course is called Business Information Systems. It's pretty similar to other info systems classes I've taken at USC. So that's the one class that I'm getting credit for here. But if you study abroad earlier, or if you wait, I know a lot of people will do, they'll do different calculus abroad They'll do other math classes, different chemistry or physics courses. Honestly, in hindsight, I wish I had waited and I could take my physics courses abroad, because those were things that I knew I had to do. So I think having an understanding as early as possible, like where you want to go abroad and what makes sense to take, like that's a good idea. I wish I had been a little bit more intentional with that. But yeah, they do have engineering here. It's just like a joint kind of computer science engineering department that I've been taking the classes in. But yeah, let's see. Was there any other part of your question, Cameron, that I didn't answer?
No, that seems pretty much it. Yeah, because like I know sometimes like people can think like, well, is my major necessarily represented? Like if you are like industrial systems engineering or astronautical or environmental, like those are really cool majors at USC. But sometimes like does every school like also have a cool major that you can also get course credit transfer for? Since like it can be difficult. It's like if you're coming from another college in the US, they don't have industrial and system engineering. I know plenty of colleges don't actually even teach it. So good to know that you can actually get some of those courses transferred over. And especially good with the math and science classes. Like I remember like I was like browsing the website. I didn't have the guts to actually go through with it like Maya, but I know I was browsing the class like, oh, I could take my linear algebra and differential equations class, abroad, or I can take some of my upper division electives, like even is like a CSBA student, even like a economics class would account it. So it's good to see like that was a good idea to just get on it early enough so that we can actually have your upper division electives or also some, lower div math and science classes that will really help out a lot.
Yeah. And if you, a really great resource, if you're interested in studying abroad or just want to look it up, the Dornsife Study Abroad website, there is a programs by major. And if you click Viterbi School of Engineering, you can scroll down and it'll give you every university and it'll say which engineering majors you can get credit for potentially. So if you look, there's like the University of Botswana in Africa, and it has listed civil, computer science, electrical, industrial systems, and mechanical engineering. So if you see your major represented there, then there's probably at least one course that you can get credit for there.
No, for sure. Because I know like I really was able to use that website because like I was looking around. I was looking also like University of like Melbourne, I think was my other option. That I was like, oh my goodness, like this would be really cool because like Australia nerd, very random fact. I was like, I want to go to Australia. And so it was really nice. And they make it really easy, I think, to just like the advisors even tell you like, okay, here's how you like search for a class for it. I'm guessing like the advisor was able to really explain that to you. Like, here's how you figure out which ones to take, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's funny you say that, Cameron. Actually, two of my best friends here at Queen Mary's University, we have this like group of a bunch of study abroad students, and we're all friends. And two of my best friends are from Melbourne in Australia. Actually,
Whoa.
they're business students who are studying abroad here.
No way.
That definitely has me wanting to go to Australia. Their accents are so cool, and everything they say about Australia sounds awesome.
You want to go down under, and like, don't they surf out there too? So you better take your surfing knowledge to Australia. Am I wrong?
Yeah. My very limited surfing knowledge. Yeah.
Very cool. There's also like a very random note, which I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, but like, did you meet like other study abroad people in your program, like other like non-UK people?
Yes. Yeah. This is, we can even go back to the beginning of the timeline. So once you get accepted to the study abroad program you're going to, USC itself, before you go, puts on a bunch of different programs for you to meet other students who are just going abroad in general or who are going abroad to your specific university. There are a bunch of mixers. So I met some people in advance of Queen Mary's who are from USC who were at Queen Mary's right now. So that was nice to have that core group as a resource when I got here. And then Queen Mary University, it went through and pretty much did the same thing again. There were a bunch of study abroad orientation programs and ways to meet other study abroad students. And we have this massive group me. I think there are about 500 study abroad students here right now.
Wow.
Which is insane. It's about the same size as like the Viterbi for my major, which is crazy. So there's this massive group me, and people will send in like, oh, does anybody want to go to this bar crawl tonight? Or does anybody want to go to this museum with me? So that's another great way that I met a lot of my friends and that I think different people are connecting. So to answer your question, yes, it's quite easy to meet people studying abroad. It's almost like being, what I imagine at least, being a freshman would be like. You're in these new dorms in a completely new environment, and you're like meeting a bunch of different people.
Honestly, okay, so we're going to try to combine our two experiences here. Like I went through the freshman experience, but I haven't gone abroad. You've gone abroad, but haven't got through the freshman
Yeah.
experience. I'd argue that it seems like pretty similar. Like you're moving in somewhere new that no one's really from. Okay, check. Everyone's also trying to make friends because like, oh, I don't want to be alone. Also check. And there's events to get you out of your shell. I mean, if that's not freshman experience and like trying to make you have fun and get accustomed to the place, then I kind of, maybe my memory is just shot and I don't know what's going on. But that sounds like a freshman experience to me, which is pretty fun. So
yeah, for context, everyone, I was a freshman during COVID, so it was virtual my entire first year. So actually, that made me want to study abroad even more because from what I heard from other people, it was like the freshman experience. I never really got that. I've been a little bit jaded about it until now. I will say, sounds like USC, but I did not get as many free t-shirts as I expected. No free t-shirt. I have a nice tote bag, but yeah, it's college apparel isn't as much of a thing here in Europe.
interesting. That's a low-key an interesting cultural difference. I mean, I'm not expecting anyone to give out as much merch as USC does because like I've had to like give my friends who don't have merch like merch. I've given like the freshman merch, like, oh, I got this shirt a while ago, like, and they're like, oh wow, that seems really nice. I'm like, do you want it? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, you can just have it because like USC gives out more merch, I'm guessing, than any other school. Like, so I get it. Makes sense. So kind of moving through the timeline as we're going through. So you applied, you got in, and you went to these events and whatnot. So for clarity, before we move on, are the events like they're happening at USC or are they happening at the university?
Yeah, so the initial events to meet other USC people happened at USC. And then Queen Mary's had this virtual, so we kind of set up the group chat before we arrived in England. And then once we arrived, there were events in person at the university here where everybody met each other in person.
Awesome. Okay, that's very cool. You can kind of get something on one side of the pond, something on the other side of the pond. So
yeah,
very, very cool. I'm going to use the corny across the pond references a couple more times. So bear with me, guys. I promise. Maybe only like 2-3 more times max. I'm going to stick to it because the London's pretty cool. And I won't bust out any accents. I promise.
I kind of want to hear the accent. I will say, I think it was Paul in an intro or some episode last season. He broke out a British accent, and it was hilarious.
Oh no. Okay. You know
it was some sort of an accent. I think it was British.
Okay, so here when I record the outro, and we're going to talk to Paul now right after the episode and kind of explain, just kind of get his thoughts on like what happened. I will try to convince him to do a British accent and see what he can do.
Oh, watch him like have not done an accent. I'm just remembering incorrectly. Paul's going to be so confused.
He's going to be like, I never did that. It's okay. We'll have fun with it. All right, so let's get back to the experience. So you got to you got to London, and so talk about that first experience, like first getting there. What was going through your head? What were your thoughts?
Yes, well, when I first got here, I think it was probably a straight 24 hours with no thoughts. I did not sleep on the flight over. I was very tired.
Oh no!
So yeah, I was pretty brain dead, and I also came a lot earlier than the other study abroad students that I knew from USC. So I really didn't know anyone who was here. But once I got settled in, had a good night's sleep, kind of set up my flat living situation, then I went to the group chat and I was like, oh, I want to meet people as soon as possible. So I ended up going out on this little pub crawl where we just hopped around different historic pubs in London. So I went out with actually some people in a different study abroad program that I met on the plane ride over from the University of Minnesota, and also some other people who are studying abroad at my university.
Oh my goodness. Okay, like the University of Minnesota must have a very deep study abroad program. Like this is just very random, but like when I went to December, like last December, to my friend who's in Marshall studying abroad in Spain, and one of her good friends I also met, not going to dox his name or anything, was also from the University of Minnesota. So it's like,
yeah, it's a big program there, I think.
Yeah, that's crazy. Just like USC and University of Minnesota kids just know how to find each other for some reason.
Yeah. So that was nice, and it was really fun to explore London and also meet new people. And even though I didn't come to USC when I was like a proper freshman, it felt pretty similar to sophomore year when there's no classes and it's just this really fun period of a week where your only job is to like acclimate to your new surroundings and meet people. So that was kind of my first thing that I wanted to do. I also had to coordinate. There were two like electives that I could take, or classes that I had space for that I didn't necessarily need at USC, but I could choose any class that I wanted to take here. So also figuring out which courses I wanted to take for my schedule and which ones I found were interesting. I have the perfect setup right now where I only have class Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I have Friday and Monday free.
Well, now that's a pretty good schedule right there. Like basically a 5-day weekend. Or four.
Yeah, I have a really bad Tuesday, but it's made it really easy to travel on the weekends, which has been nice. And it definitely took a lot of attempts to get that schedule. So there's been a lot of thought put into making that my experience.
Hey, look, it's okay. You gotta persevere. Just gotta push through it. And you get a lovely 4-day weekend, which I mean, I couldn't imagine that. Like I've had like the 3-day weekend, and I have like days off in the middle, but no like consistent, like from Friday through Monday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 4 days, like straight through. Crazy. But I can already know like what that is useful for. Which we'll get in a little bit later.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else that stands out at the beginning. Yeah, it was a little bit of a cultural adjustment at the beginning as well. Getting used to the different things at the university here, but then also just in general living in Europe versus in America. Like one thing that was really nice is that it's super walkable and the public transit is great. So you can find it like really easy to go around different areas of London. It's going to be hard to go back to driving in cars and being in LA and sitting in traffic, but yeah.
No, for sure. Like that, I'm a huge like transit nerd. As a computer science student, it's really weird, but I love like urban public transit. So I'm moving to the East Coast, and I love it. It's like, why sit in a car for an hour and a half? We can take the train. They're just so much more efficient, and then they're so walkable too. Like you can just like wander around and find things. It's great. But did you find any other like things were just different or unusual? Not necessarily like weird, just like things of like a way of life that's different, like in the UK, like in Europe in general, so assuming you've been around, that you just kind of took a minute to adjust to?
Yeah, let me think. So the grocery shopping is different here. People tend to not go for the entire week. They'll go like a couple times a week, just because the food is has less preservative, so it goes bad more quickly. So a lot of going to the grocery store. There's this thing called Pret. I know Pret's in New York, but Pret a Manger that has this coffee subscription where you can get up to 5 drinks a day. So
wow,
that's been a nice change. Yeah, like all the alternate milks are included, so you could get 5 oat milk matchas a day, and the first month is like $15 US dollars. So.
No, that's a really good deal. It was like 50 cents a matcha or something, probably a lot less. That is okay. Matcha drinkers, coffee drinkers. That's a good deal.
Matcha drinkers. Yeah, I don't know if they have it in New York, because I know that Pret is a thing there as well. But that's that. Other than that, I think London it definitely has similarities with a lot of the big cities in the US. So there wasn't anything super big that I had to adjust to, which has been really nice. I guess the time was probably the hardest part. Like it's hard to communicate with people, especially in Los Angeles. Like I think right now is 9:30 for you. It's 5:30 p.m. for me right now. So coordinating those sort of meetings and like emailing my advisor, that's been a little bit difficult. But other than that, it's been pretty smooth sailing across the pond. Now I get to say it.
Yeah, I guess like the only big difference, which you didn't have to deal with since you didn't drive, of course, was the left side of the road thing. But there's no need to drive. You just take the train. Was it the tube or the underground? Is that what they call it?
Yes, the tube. I will say the driving on the opposite side of the street, the first couple of days, that was actually an adjustment, because a lot of people jaywalk here. So you go to jaywalk, but you have to make sure you're looking in the opposite direction that you tried to. So there have been a couple of close calls in the first couple of days, but yeah, small adjustment.
Yeah, really small details. So let's bring it back and let's go to, this is a study abroad. not a trip
Mhm.
abroad, not a abroad. So talk about your experience in some of the classes that you've been in thus far. How have they
Mhm.
been? How is it similar and or different to the engineering class or just classes in general you've taken at USC?
Mhm. Yeah. So to start, I'll say the classes that I'm in. So there are two classes within the School of Electrical Engineering, Computer Engineering, kind of the equivalent of Viterbi here. So I'm taking one called Product Development. That one I am unfortunately not getting credit for, but it's a business elective for my friend who's in computer science and business. And I'm also taking Business Information Systems. And those two, they're relatively similar to courses at USC that I've taken at Viterbi. I will say the class size is bigger, and also students don't go to the lectures as much, which I found a little bit sad. Like you don't have that camaraderie as much in those classes as you would at USC. I think in ISE, I'm really used to. ISE is Industrial and Systems Engineering, so in my major, I'm really used to smaller class sizes. So that was an adjustment, something that was definitely different that I found I didn't like as much. Um, and in general, I think those courses are more qualitative engineering. So a lot of my first 3 years has been taking science, math classes, having actual like a written like problems to do for my homework. And those courses are teaching more qualitative concepts like product management, like product development lifecycle. So those are things that are a little bit harder to quantify. So that's been a different experience. I don't know if it's the courses or if it's because I'm taking them here. And then the biggest overarching difference between academics at USC and academics here would be the volume of assignments. So at school in the UK, at my university specifically as well, you have a lot less class time and a lot less assignments. That just means that the assignments that you do have are weighted a lot more heavily. So for instance, some of my classes, it's graded on 2 essays, and that's like one is 60% of my grade, one is 40% of my grade. So you don't have those check-in assignments that you would have at USC or that you'd find pretty common in American school. So you can go really large chunks of time without having assessments to check where you're at. So it's easy to fall behind. Or it's really good if you're good at managing your own time and setting your own schedule and things like that. Let me think as well. Yeah, I guess, did you have any comments about those so far, Cameron?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a good thing to note. Like in doing my research, I kind of saw something similar, but it's good to like hear that like that's definitely the case because I think a lot of times, like even at USC, like most of our classes, we typically have like 2 midterms, which some people think like, oh, like I don't really like 2 midterms. Like, why would you want 2 exams? But it makes the stakes about you know, each midterm a lot lower. So instead of it being like, oh, you know, the final is worth 40%, the midterm is worth 30%. It's like, well, each individual test can be worth 20%. You know, and so it's like it gives you more chances to kind of, you know, not screw up, but it gives you more chances to try. In the case of the grade, you don't get the grade that you want. There's okay, well, at least it's not sinking your grade entirely. And then there's of course like, you know, participation and homeworks, and then like other lab grades. There's like lots of other things to make up the grade. But for here, you know, you don't have that. It seems like you just have like those 2 big assignments, which again depend on if your schedule is good or not. You know, sometimes if you don't want to really have this overarching like do your work person kind of talking over your shoulder, it's cool. But at the same time, it means that those assignments are weighted a lot more. And I feel like that's something that, you know, probably I would have never known, which is good to know now, since that's probably something that other people might not have known too.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit like that's the general trend, but it's a little bit variable based on the different courses that you take. And actually, if you go onto the Queen Mary's website and you look at the different classes, they call them modules. It'll actually tell you how many assessments, like what your course is graded on, just in that page when you're signing up for the classes. So I tried to generally make it so everything was spaced out, and I wasn't in any courses that would have like too many assessments, because I am one of those people that's a little bit better at managing my own time, and I'd like to like yeah, I think for me it would be easier to do like 2 assessments versus 1 every week when I'm abroad. So that was something I considered. So those were the 2 classes. And then there are the other 2 classes that I added after the fact. So after I registered for those 2, I had like open space to do whatever I wanted. So I'm taking one class. Well, actually, they're both technically comparative literature classes. One is it's a German film text comparison class. So we list so how it's structured, we read a bunch of German novels and then watch the film adaptations and discuss it. And that's been really fun because it's something that I never would have taken on my own or thought to take, but the things are really cool. So like, do you know the movie All Quiet on the Western Front? Just won an award. It's on Netflix.
I sadly am not an aware film person, but I trust your judgment and everyone else that it's an award-winning film.
Yeah, it's interesting. So we read the book and then we watched the film adaptation. So that's a cool break in the engineering curriculum. And then I'm also taking one class about just adaptation in general. And that one's really fun. So the professors who teach that, there have been 3 different lectures and they're all really into what they teach on. So there's been Alice in Wonderland, this different Chinese book, and more recently, the Iliad. So going through all those different novels, it's been fun. It's been a good way to practice a different sort of academics than I would normally at USC. And it's really low stakes because I don't need the credit back at USC. So yeah, it's just a fun explorative thing.
Yeah. And I like the fact that you included that. I think it's really cool just to have some space to take something really cool, especially as an offer. Like I could never imagine having like a German, German literature, German, just anything type of class. I guess there are German classes here, but to teach it in some place that is like so much more closer to the origin of the content. And of course, it's contextualized by the fact that these are European. So they have obviously are a little closer to the experience. I think that's really cool. And again, you're right, it's low stakes. So it's kind of similar to how to have space in your schedule at USC. It's nice to hear that depending on how you structure your schedule, you can carry it abroad with you. So I'm definitely a fan of that.
Yeah, and what you just said with the different sorts of people in the class, that reminds me of another difference. This is a smaller difference in, I think, my classes here versus in America, but the sorts of people who are in the class as well. That makes it different. So in my product development class, we had this lecture about intellectual property. And it was completely different than it would have been in the US just because of the different legal systems and the different property laws. So actually in the class, they're going through what that process would be in the UK. And as they go along, they're like, oh yeah, this is completely different in America. This is completely different in America. So it was cool to have that different perspective and realize that certain things that we take for granted can function completely different in other countries.
That definitely is so true. I didn't even think about that, especially legal stuff. Yeah, if you're talking about anything like legal and engineering, might as well, But it's cool to learn it. It's cool to see how other people do things and maybe why another government emphasizes one thing versus another. If you're a chemical engineer, there's certain chemicals that are banned in the in the Europe, but that are still allowed in the US. And it's you get to see, well, why is that? So IP, well, the US does or doesn't do that, and the UK does or doesn't do that. The EU does or doesn't do that. So definitely a cool thing to know. That's a really good difference. Actually, I would have never really kind of remembered that. As I'm sitting here, I'm looking at your background. It's like a wall, and I was thinking an apartment, which reminds me that's a great. I swear, that's not a canned segue. That's just my train of thought. How is finding housing in an apartment? Because that's already difficult enough at USC. In fact, if you haven't need more about housing, there's literally an entire episode. I think a couple of weeks back, you can watch and listen to all about housing. But how was finding housing in London?
Yeah. So thankfully, Queen Mary's, what they did with all the study abroad students is we could apply for housing with all the freshmen. So I'm technically in a dorm. Actually, I think every study abroad student I know here is in a different dorm. So Queen Mary's, it's a lot of students commute, but their first year they live on campus. So that makes it a little bit unique as far as a university in London. Not a lot of the universities in London have proper campuses. So we're all concentrated it's probably a quarter of the size of USC's campus. There are, all the buildings are really close together. So I'm in a dorm. How it works here is you put in your preferences, and it's really common for each person to have their own single bed, attached bathroom and toilet, shower. and then you share a kitchen with, I'm sharing with 7 other students here. One is a study abroad student, and the other 6 are they're freshmen. So this is their first year. So that's been pretty fun to live with a bunch of the freshmen from the UK. And yeah, every study abroad student. So we get, so since we got to apply, it was like guaranteed if you applied by a certain time that you'd get this housing through Queen Mary's. And that's nice because it's a lot cheaper than it would normally would be in London. It's actually cheaper than what I was paying in LA as well. And that takes a lot of the hassle out of it. I do know the people who had to coordinate their own housing within London, it's a really hard market to find housing in. So some of those people have to commute from further in. And since there's public transit, it's not as bad, but I think it can be pretty hard to find housing if it's not through your program. I like my little dorm. I love having my own bathroom and shower, and it's like sharing a kitchen isn't so bad either. Just we don't have a common area, which is a little bit hard. In these dorms, you don't have like a dorm floor where everybody can get together like you'd see at USC. Here, like you have the kitchen, but then everybody has their own room, so it's a little bit more private.
I see. So there's no like McCarthy or Ilium lounges, is what I'm hearing. You're very disappointed
No,
by that.
I am a little bit disappointed about that. Yeah, there are less like congregating spaces on campus too, as well, especially when it's cold outside. Yeah, so it's been a lot of going out to different areas with my friends if I want to hang out. So yeah, especially in the colder months, like we would go, like maybe go out to dinner or go out to a pub and hang out there, just because you can't really do that in your own room or flat.
Exactly. Makes sense. And that's also like, it seems the accommodations are pretty nice. I mean, like, I don't really know of a freshman that gets a private bedroom and a private bathroom, let alone like a possible kitchen. Like the only dorm that used to have a kitchen is now non-existent anymore. RIP Floor Tower. We will miss you dearly. So you just don't have any of that. So that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it's good to know that you can also get housing, because like I already have and struggled like getting good housing at USC in general. And so I couldn't imagine being like, hi, yes, like I'm not from your country. Can you give me an apartment? And I can see the easy answers being like, nope, and they move on. So I can definitely am glad to hear that at least with Queen Mary that they're, you know, like understanding of that. And there's like on-campus options for it that are like easy to get through the university.
Yeah, it's made the whole process super easy for that, which has been, I'm very grateful for that. There was a lot going on with classes and stuff last semester, so that would have been a pretty big hassle to have to find that on my own.
Exactly. All right, now I'm into the fun part. I know this part you're looking for. I know this is the part that everyone is probably thinking of. You lived in Europe. Everyone knows the stereotype about Europe. How was the traveling? Let's just start going there.
Well, I have the 4-day weekend every week, so there've been a bunch of different places that I've gone. So starting the week before class started, I took the weekend and I went with my roommate at USC, who's actually also studying abroad at Queen Mary's University. We went to Venice in Italy. That was our first trip. The second trip, a couple weeks later, we went to Bruges in Belgium. And then I did a bunch of more local trips around the UK. So I went to Bath, which is where Bridgerton is filmed, for one weekend. I went to Edinburgh one weekend. And these are all train trips. And I also went with a larger group of study abroad students. So the Australians, those are my friends. Went with them and a big group to those places. I went to Morocco. I went to Portugal, really testing my memory.
Oh, yeah.
Portugal was my favorite, I will say. That was a really fun trip. And then I went to, and this I guess is less within Europe, but it's a British territory. I went to Turks and Caicos. That was with my parents, so I guess that's cheating on the Europe trip. And then I have a couple trips left. So my mom's coming to visit and I'm going to Barcelona with her. I am going to Nice in the south of France with a friend. And then I think I'm going to Malta, but I'm not 100% sure. So yeah, that's the long list.
Sheesh. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I've got 7 different places written down, and then you're heading to three more. Talk about a travel experience. Also, I will say Barcelona is very nice. I definitely loved it. 100%, 100%. I need to go to Italy, or I need to go to Venice. I went to other places in Italy, but Venice is nice. So, little world traveler. But yes, that is quite a list. How was it? How was the experience like traveling and seeing those other places and getting that exposure?
It was great, and I would be lying if I said that it wasn't a big reason why I wanted to go abroad. I really like traveling, and specifically around Europe, I'd heard a lot of great things, and people had a lot of opportunity to do that. So that was definitely something I wanted to do. Shout out Ryanair too,
Oh my
for
goodness, we
making
love
it
Ryanair.
possible. Ryanair, Wizz Air, EasyJet, all of them, great. Um, but the experience is it was really nice to see all the different cultures. In Europe, it's so easy to hop on a plane for a couple hours and then you're in a completely different environment, even a different continent, like going down to Morocco. That was in Africa, so that was my first time there. It's cool to compare and contrast that living and your experiences there and where you are. But it's also been nice to just be in London and have like a different experience of really getting to know this place. I know it sounds like I've gone a bunch of different places, but I guess more recently as well, I've been trying to be intentional to make time to just stay in London and explore the place I am in the weekends. So it's taught me that like I really love traveling, but I like staying in each city more than a couple days. Like I think staying in one place for an extended period of time, even like 5 days or a week, I think that's really valuable. Yeah, and I mean, in general, I think European culture is awesome. The food is great. I'm a cappuccino person now.
Yes, we love
Uh,
cappuccinos.
yeah, but traveling's been good. I'm excited for it to get warmer. So for the trips when it's more like what you're used to in LA. Like there's been a little bit of chilly weather on my trips. So
Yeah, I can imagine like Europe is certainly not the equator level, super tropical and temperate area. But it seems like the cities were designed that way because they know, like, look, it's not going to be, 70 and sunny every day for, the entire year like it is in LA. So they kind of designed the city around that. Seems like it's still good to, get to live there and good place to just kind of exist and be.
Mhm. Yeah, coming from Wisconsin, coming from the Midwest, I'm sure you understand. I was like, oh, this will be fine. Like I'll do it. But California has made me weak, Cameron.
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
was so cold. I think that first week here, I would wear like 3 jackets going out, and everybody just made fun of me, especially my friends from Minnesota. They were like, you should be used to this.
Yeah, it's
Nope.
like a scientific thing. Like I was looking at the other day because like I when I went to Barcelona, it was like cold and like oh god, like I got trapped in the UK in December and it was like 28 degrees and I didn't have a coat and I was like wanted to just simply like jump into the pond and just
Mhm.
do whatever. But like it's a scientific thing that you just lose your ability to withstand the cold over time. Like it's like a muscle. Like you just use it or you lose it. So don't feel bad. Midwesterners, we will regain our strength once more eventually if we ever leave back.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess, do you have any other questions about different places I've been or different lessons?
Yeah, like I mean, I think you hit like the main
Mhm.
points that I want to talk about. I guess like in general, did you know you wanted to do like a semester abroad as opposed to some of the other like abroad programs that I know Viterbi has to offer? Did those ever cross your mind, or you kind of sit on the I want to go for the semester?
I I was open to the other programs. I think given my schedule and talking to my advisors, like I think it made the most sense to do a semester abroad. Um, just in general, every summer, I guess since sophomore year, I've been interning, and freshman year I was working. So that makes it a little bit harder to do like a Maymester or a program at the like after the end of the spring semester. So since I had stuff to do in the summer, that wasn't necessarily an option that I considered. And then I guess I considered the program that you did, like the spring break RIT 340. That's correct.
Yeah.
But I ended up taking RIT 340 during ended up taking it the fall of my junior year, just because I wanted to. Because at that point, I was like, I'd rather spend a longer period of time in Europe than just spring break or the period of that class. So that was what led me to decide on the semester abroad. I also thought that a year abroad might be a little too much. And since industrial and systems engineering is pretty niche, I think that would have been a struggle for me to find enough credits at a university for that.
For sure, for sure. And I definitely feel like that makes sense when you think of the semester abroad. That kind of seems like the gold standard. Like, oh, I went abroad, X semester. The year is like, okay, like you must really love that country and like they like everything lined up perfectly because you can do it. But if the place doesn't have your classes, then it's like, well, did you really study abroad or just kind of like go abroad and took some random classes? So the semester kind of feels like the gold standard. And a lot of the same reasons that you kind of mentioned about the summers, like, oh, the May semesters are cool, but like sometimes engineering internships are 12 weeks long. And so if you don't have internship or you have a shorter internship, you can do a May semester is great. But like I had to work for 12 weeks and I had like maybe 2 weeks off. May semester is like 4 weeks. So, you're not going abroad there. And so I had already kind of squandered my time. So like basically how you're doing the spring semester junior year for you, that was my time to go. And I kind of squandered that because I didn't do it. And so once you get later, luckily I didn't take Writing 340 till the very end. As for context, the program, Writing 340 is the upper division, like the second and last writing class you have to take at USC. There's a program specifically for engineers within the Viterbi Engineering and Society program. It's a mouthful. That's just the program in case you're looking for the same like name of the place. Pretty much it's like global perspective. You take your standard writing class, but they take a trip to different places. So my trip was to Berlin, Germany. It's been for the past couple of years. The new trip for the next, I think, at least year or two is going to be to Tokyo in Japan. There's a couple different flavors of the program. I know Maya's making a face right now. You can't see it. Of like,
that's
Tokyo.
So fun. That's so cool.
Tokyo is going to be very nice. It's going to be super cool. Like, especially because it's supposed to be for engineering, like talk about engineering. But the program has a couple different flavors. You either will take it in the spring, in which case it will be a May semester where you travel for 2 weeks after the semester ends. There's a program called Fall Lead, in which case the 2 weeks before school starts, I think it's a little bit earlier than just you have time to move in. They will go to the program for 2 weeks and then come back and then start the class. And then this spring break abroad is actually new. I think this is the first semester they've ever done it, where for 10 days. So you leave like the Thursday before spring break and get back the Monday after. So it is a full 10-day trip. You're in Europe, you're in the location. And so the spring break one was nice because guess why I wasn't, doing the stereotypical spring break things. I'll let your imagination run wild with that. I was able to still get some traveling and go abroad and do some studying things with some friends. So it kind of felt like a faux study abroad, but which was nice because my schedule just didn't really allow for it. Mainly not because of Viterbi, but because of me. So just an option if you want to throw it out there. But I still think like there is valuable lessons in the abroad, like, the full semester abroad, but also being able to find other programs that you're interested in that also fit your schedule. If you like were me and wait too late, but still want to go somewhere, you can go somewhere. It is possible.
Yeah, completely agree with all the points that you made. There is literally a program for every schedule and every person. It's just a matter of like recognizing that you want to go abroad and then you can make it happen.
Exactly, because we've talked about there's, of course, the full there's full year, full semester, and the month May semesters, which also like don't have to be engineering. Like we talked about the engineering program. There's also like other May semesters at USC, and now this thing called a July semester, which is kind of like fall lead. You start like during the middle of the summer, or like right before, like in August before the semester starts. But then there's also research abroad, and then you can find internships abroad. So there's like this new category, I guess, like abroad experiences that people have been calling it. Like you can have an abroad experience while you're in college. I feel like that's what most people really want. Hey, man, I just wanted to go to a different country while I'm in college and like say, I did something cool there. You can do it. So.
Yeah, I know one of my old roommates last summer, she interned. So she's a computer science and business major as well. And she interned in South Korea for the summer. So
wow.
There are a million options of different things to do.
Dang, why did I not know about this? I would have done that.
I forget what the program is called. Have to look it up, maybe put it in the notes. But it was a program where I think she applied just through USC in general. The Global Fellows program. And they place you with the company that you're interning with. So you just apply to the program, but then you don't have to deal with internship applications, which are a whole different animal.
Yep. Oh my gosh. I literally found the thing. I typed in USC Global Fellows Internship Information Session. In fact, I think, and this is like this, ironically, this link is from fall 2019. And I remember going to like roughly the same place. Like that seems really cool. So there it is. Yes. Like see through USC, a job. And like, it's open for everybody too. So like, like at USC, like it's a job somewhere. And you also are doing something really cool. In fact, I think I know someone who's on this like, same like roughly program of like, I think they're going to also Korea. I think Korea is kind of the spot for it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So cool. So many different options. So
exactly.
Yeah, you guys have your work cut out for you in the intro and the conclusion, trying to collect all the different things that we've talked about and the different programs and putting them in there.
Yeah. Like, oh my gosh, I don't know why I looked it up, but yeah, it's an 8-week internship in Osaka, Seoul, Tokyo, a bunch of other places. Okay. Enough about that specific program, but that's a really cool opportunity that you might not think of when you think of, I want to go abroad somewhere, but like, I'm a like, for example, you're a software, you're a mechanical engineering student, like, you're not really supposed to go abroad junior year because of mech ops, which you'll learn about mech ops. You definitely want to be in the US for that. You're like, it's too late. I don't want to go abroad my senior year. Why don't you just study abroad and go to a different country over the summer and intern instead of doing that? Like, cool opportunities all around.
It's like you kill two birds with one stone. You have your internship in the summer and you also get a program abroad.
Exactly. So before I let you go, because I know that it is later-ish in the evening and you probably have a million fun things to do, I guess what would be your parting words for any people hearing this and thinking about studying abroad?
My parting words. It's the biggest message I want to emphasize would be what we spoke about last. Even if you think, I don't know, if you think you want to go abroad, it's my personal opinion that like there is some program and like you can make it work. And I think there's a lot of value in going abroad. It really adds to your education, and you get to learn a lot of things about how people do education in different places, or even how people live in different places, and to be able to compare and contrast that to your personal experiences. I think you learn a lot about what you enjoy and what you don't, which I think is really valuable for living in the future. So my advice would be to do it, even if you're like remotely interested in it, and to just find the resources and find the program to make it work, because it will work if you want it to work.
Awesome. And that's a good way to end it. Maya, thank you so much for coming on and your busy schedule and just sharing this awesome experience. Studying abroad is probably one of the best things you can do in college. And so I'm just glad we were able to hear from you, get your experience, and hear how awesome it's been for you to be abroad. Yeah,
thank you, Cameron. It was great to chat with you, great to catch up. And yeah, I've really been enjoying listening to your podcast episodes. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Trying to follow in the great footsteps. So we'll finish out the semester, and Maya will return. Hopefully, maybe she'll definitely be back on some other time.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I'll chat with you soon.
And we're back. I think that's probably one of the funnest episodes I've definitely produced, and just one of the best conversations I've had, to be honest.
When you were in high school, was it always like you wanted to make sure that you study abroad, or was this a new thing?
Well, when I was in high school, I always thought I was going to study abroad in China, since I had taken Chinese between like middle school and high school for 5.5, 6 years. But I didn't know. I was just like, well, maybe something happened. And then, of course, the pandemic. Someone literally asked us to say, like, did you get a chance to study abroad? And I'm like, that's such an unfair question. And it is. But, it is nice to be able to at least live out some of the dream for a little bit through a program.
Was when you went to Germany, was that on a list for you of a place you wanted to go, or is this just kind of a thing you ended up doing? And ultimately, what did you think?
So I'll be honest with you, it was not on my list. I had a Europe list of like all the places I wanted to hit in Europe, and Germany did not fall on that place. And so most people might be wondering, well, why did you take the trip there? But then it dawned on me that if I wasn't going to ever really go to Germany, it was going to be on a list later. It would be the perfect perfect excuse to get that off of the list of places to go to, while satisfying a requirement for a class, and while going with some people that I know about and having some fun.
That's cool. And what did you think of Germany? What's your takeaway? Yeah.
I mean, I think that I went in the cold, so I can't really speak for the weather, but I think that there's a lot of things to do in like Berlin, as well as like Germany overall. Have really great, like, social scene, like lots of things to do, great sites. It's really beautiful there. I hear about the lake culture in the summer. People just go to the beach areas or the lake beaches and whatnot. And, since they're not real beaches, technically, Californians, I get enough of that. And just I would highly recommend at least like going. It was someplace I definitely am glad I was able to go and see both Berlin as well as like a trip to Hamburg, Germany too. Really fun.
That's awesome. Oddly, I really want to go to Germany. I cannot explain why, but it just seemed like a cool place to go check out. And I wanted to. What?
See, that's me with Lisbon, Portugal. I don't know why.
Really?
Like, it's just something about it. I've just heard. I don't even know if I've heard like, oh my god, this is so fun, but that's just a place on my bucket list. It's the next logical place I would like to travel to in Europe whenever I'm going, whenever that indeterminate date is.
So people have tried to talk me into Portugal, and the way that they sell it to me is beachfront Europe, and it's like you get, and it's relatively inexpensive, and there's some cool opportunities in Portugal to kind of have that like really cool beach type vacation, but you're in Europe, which is like, okay, that sounds cool. I'll check that out.
Yeah. Honestly, that wasn't really the pitch when I was there. Like, also, like someone told me it was like it's kind of like California, but not quite. It's got a lot of hills, which I don't particularly care for hills. But you know, I get a cardio. I live on the 4th floor of a building. I walk up every day, so I got some cardio strength in me.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
So I don't know why. That's just what I've heard about it. Also, I was familiar with Lisbon from the Money Heist character who was named Lisbon. So I don't know. It's just been on my mind. Hopefully, I can go.
All right, cool. Well, for everyone out there that has recently been admitted, again, congratulations. There still are admitted student events available for you to do. Explore USC runs weekdays. You can register for that. You can check out all the events, including some that are coming to your area, including that London event, including some other international locations, Singapore and Taipei. We've got programs across the country over the next couple weeks, including the East Coast, Boston, and DC, and Philadelphia, and New York. We've got Chicago coming up, Cameron, which I know is your hometown.
Yes,
we've got, we already did Seattle. We already did Portland. We already did Atlanta. We already did South Florida. We've got next week, Houston and Dallas. And Lisa will be going out there. Lisa's her first solo trip on their own. So hopefully we will get that going. We'll be excited. She'll be meeting with some admitted students out there. So there's so much stuff happening. It's very exciting. And I hope that if you haven't signed up for one of these, you can, and you can join us. Remember that our on-campus events, they are based on, there's capacity. And so if you haven't signed up, sign up now, because they will close. Like we already closed one for tomorrow. We already closed the one for Monday. It's a lot of people that are coming. So we really hope you can do that or join us at one near you. And if you can't, we also have virtual events. Again, viterbiadmission.usc.edu/admit. That's where you want to go. Lots of good stuff there. And if you ever need anything, just give us a call, 213-600-9919. If we don't answer, that means we're on the other line. And please leave us a message so we can call you back, or email us at vadmit@usc.edu. So I think that's enough for today. Cameron, is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
You've pretty much got it covered.
All right. Well, hey, everybody, congratulations again. And we will see you all. Well, we won't see you, but you'll hear us again next week with a whole other episode of Viterbi Voices. Bye, everybody.